This is Project CB News, where the truth matters. It's a very interesting topic for me because it's so much of a need that we have need in South Africa, and then yet again we find ourselves without necessities like power.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And obviously, the entire country and economy and the whole society suffers from the current situation of load shedding. And with this, obviously, also losing income and economic efficiency.
You've been in this business now for 20 years. What have you seen? What have you heard concerning the future of the electricity?
Focusing on South Africa, I assume, yeah?
Yeah, South Africa and the entire world. I mean, we don't need to just look in South Africa, although we do have a crisis. But is this as well a problem everywhere in the world?
Yeah, today maybe more than the years before, because we didn't face a really at least in Europe, a really crisis and a war which is affecting electricity, power, and resource supply. These times were supposedly long gone. So I'm currently traveling in Germany and seeing a lot of people I know over the last decades in the industry. And surprisingly enough, even on that fairly high level of integration of renewables already in Europe, which is, when I say fairly high, obviously none of the countries is really there, or nearly none of the countries is really there where they want to be in terms of portion of renewables in the daily energy mix. But what all the people I saw now confirmed is that since since Russia literally invaded Ukraine and the war there's a push for renewables that they haven't experienced for the last decade. And it feels, some of them, of the people I met, compare these times now with the first strong growth period in the renewable industries in 2010. So there's a special spirit currently there, and it seems that a lot of governments are now opening up with over the last years, sometimes fairly restrictive activities towards renewables. So everyone wanted to integrate them, but there was always some things which stopped the fast integration that was started more than a decade ago. For example, in Germany, it's the fact that there's still a lot of coal supply going on, and they decided to literally move completely out of nuclear power. And with the lobby of the coal industry, it took longer than anticipated. Now suddenly it seems to open up that you can install more wind power generation again, even though that there was in some areas, it was very difficult to get literally new projects certified. Now it's opening up. The PV industry is growing in the entire world, not only in Europe, it's US, even China. If you look into the new installed capacity in China, that's per year more than our entire nation's generation capacity, which is newly installed solar capacity in China, I believe somewhere around 50-60 gigawatts that will be installed there this year. So there's a big move. And if you look into South Africa, yeah, I'm with you there. There is obviously need for integration of renewables. We see that generation capacity currently is not sufficient. We know that there was always, let's call it, a political will to integrate more solar, but a lot of red tape which stopped this. And the recent developments are showing that this red tape has been removed, maybe not completely, but to a big extent. We see large installations going forward in the commercial sector. Obviously, we are hoping that for the private and residential sector, that it is also soon will open up, and then there will be also programs which enable household owners to integrate solar, and not like only now, not the way that it's currently done, that it's only for let's say, backup power in load shedding, but as an integrated source in a regional power supply, where you say every new house will install solar, will provide with the feeding into the municipal or into the network, will literally also contribute to a power stability.
Stability is quite the word for the day, because it really feels that we in South Africa does not have that a stable power supply that we got used to over the years, and it just gets to the small businesses and actually every other economic front. It's difficult. But when you integrate solar with the current power supply, your life becomes a little bit easier. But I think the dream and the main aim would be to go completely or 90% off the grid, and you don't need to be reliant on the current source of electricity.
Yeah, that's absolutely possible. I wouldn't say that that's necessarily what we as a country and as an economy, and then also if you look into the future grid stability, we don't. If you look into this theoretically, you don't want to be everyone independent. So the driving force now is obviously load shedding. So everyone wants to find a solution to overcome the hours where the power is switched off, and we have to assume that it will stay load shedding will stay with us for a while. So I fully understand this, but if we look into the chances of renewables, it is obviously, yes, it can help with load shedding immediately in a private household, even in a small business, even in a larger business, but singular and isolated solutions which help the individual or maybe a community, but not necessarily the country. So besides the integration now for let's say to overcome the load shedding, the bigger goal must be to implement in a clever and smart way enough generation capacity that together with the resources which are on, but we have to build up with water and water storage schemes, geothermal, biomass, maybe even gas power stations, which are very flexible by the means how you can integrate them into a national grid, and that combined with a large proportion of renewables, wind and solar. What we see is now, if you take this example from a smaller household with a solar system and a battery, if we now look into, for example, a regional solution where you say you integrate large solar and wind capacity and large battery storage with a base load capacity and combine this, then you can quickly overcome the challenges that we currently have with load shedding. But it would be great if it's a combined effort, obviously, because what we see now is you have on the private sector, you have obviously the movement to avoid load shedding and buy a battery and buy a PV and get more or less independent from Eskom. But if we look into the bigger picture, it is important to integrate huge generation capacity and huge storage capacity.
So, and I think this is where your company, Solarworld Africa, just comes in to help exactly with that.
Yeah, it's we pride ourselves to be one of the oldest distribution companies and specialists on PV technology on the continent. So our history goes as far back as 1984, and so what we provide to professional partners is a full range of international top leading quality brands on module inverters, storage capacities or storage solutions, and find this from different manufacturers, obviously with different technologies, and they can scale up to any size. It's actually, it always sounds a little bit like too good to be true, but you can go from the small household solution up to the large utility solution and source everything literally in the country.
I know that there's, as I look for deals, and it's like Black Friday is coming, and all I see on the specials are inverters, batteries, all the things that will make life easier for load shedding. And I find it quite interesting that it would be the inverters and the ways of how to make life better with electricity. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we all want to go back to work and do it effectively. And maybe that's the way to go then.
Yeah. I definitely look. It's I would like not to be misunderstood. If you are sitting at home and you can't work for 5 hours or 6 hours a day because of load shedding, yes, obviously get a solution. Definitely. And I can only recommend this to everyone. When I said we should look into a obviously combined effort on a larger solution in the bigger picture, then it's obviously what government has now to do, where they should get the private stakeholders with on board. There's obviously international funding available, as we all know, and will be now also discussed on COP27 again. But there's also literally in terms of investors' money available, international funds available that want to invest into renewables globally, and obviously also in South Africa, it's a very attractive market. So when I said clear, if you are hit by load shedding and there is no other solutions, I would immediately go for a backup solution, or maybe even integrated solar hybrid backup solution, so that you also generate your own power. But as an economy, obviously, we must look for the larger scale of it, and make sure that we quickly integrate additional generation capacity. And with that generation capacity on solar and wind side, at the same time, we have to build up also storage capacity. Also, if you look into projects on the green hydrogen side, it only does make sense if you generate the green hydrogens, if you also have got storage capacity available, so that you can run a plant 24/7, 365.
Speaking of running a plant, I mean, speaking about generating, and I've heard the term that you can put back into the grid, and will that be sustainable and effective at the end, that you generate electricity from your power source, and then put it back into the grid, and obviously being getting paid or for doing that?
Yeah, it is a sustainable approach, and it's a very important approach. So because now everyone can do something, and you can still do a small backup at your home, but you build maybe the solar system a little bit larger. You supply a lot of electricity into your own consumption during daytime excess. You feed back into the grid, and obviously that creates a basis for additional generation on a municipal or regional level. And yes, there must be a compensation for this, because currently it's not. There are schemes, and for example, Cape Town offers a scheme, but it must be attractive and fair, so that you at least maybe by means of net metering. So why should you give the utility or your service provider the electricity at a different rate than you get the electricity from them? So net metering, meaning you turn back the meter, is a very fair way forward, or at least a feed-in tariff which compensates for the cost that the system creates. That's a very actually a very efficient and effective way, and a quick way to add up additional generation capacity. If you look, for example, in the past into commercial solar installations, all the installations, or most of the installations which are set up on the roofs, they're actually paying back by means that you're not feeding back into the grid, but you only compensate what you would usually take from the grid, be it your utility, be it Eskom or be it one of the municipalities, which is then obviously providing the electricity. And the savings versus what a solar generated kilowatt hour cost the owner of the system versus the electricity he would pay out of normal grid supply. This makes the system very viable. Now, if you offer these, for those kinds of installation, an additional benefit that you say, if you have the roof space available and you build the system bigger than what you would need for your own purpose, generate it and sell it to the grid, because obviously everyone or our economy needs additional generation capacity. So, and that's a very fast way and efficient way to do it.
So there's another thing that we can quickly talk about, Qcells panels. You guys say that this is the solution for the rooftops and ground installations. Quickly tell me so you need those panels, obviously, for to generate your the power needed for the electricity. But what makes your company then so much better than anyone out there?
Look, it's not our company. So I would say it would be great if it's my company, but my company might be better because of service and the experience that we have in the industry and that we provide. But now, when we look into products and now touching base on Qcells, it's all about efficiency of a product, longevity of a product, and so the value for money that you receive. So if we look into the top manufacturers globally, we all share more or less the same platform of product concept. But for example, Qcells quantum technology and the N-type mono-PERC technology provides a better temperature coefficient, meaning when it's hot there out there on a sunny day, the product performs better than a standard mono-PERC technology, and the returns or the yield is more. So it's a higher yield, and it's over the years a more constant yield than with a standard technology. That makes it special, but it doesn't mean that other modules are not providing also reasonable yields. The fact with Qcells is that you get from a top manufacturer, long-term established manufacturer, you get for the same investment actually some extra yields over the years, and that's something which maybe for the layman it's not common knowledge, but the hotter it gets, literally the more inefficient a solar module gets. So the ideal spot would be the Arctic with the solar irradiation of the Sahara in combination. So and sun like on a hot on a perfect summer day in South Africa in the Northern Cape. But we don't find this, so we have to live with it. A good example is when I started in the industry in the early 2000s, and I was working in Germany those days, and I was on a sunny February day, which was literally full winter. At midday, I was at a plant, and that plant performed that day only for maybe 30 minutes, but the same capacity than it did 6 months earlier in the middle of summer. Why? It was a nice sunny day, and it was minus 2 degrees outside. So I learned this effect in a very practical way. And don't misunderstand me. Obviously, we have to live with the fact that high solar irradiation also creates heat, and with that concept now, the module manufacturers like Qcells, they found a way to make the product, even in a hot environment, slightly more efficient, and that gives the owner of the system over the years a better yield. And actually, if we take the ecological aspect away, that every kilowatt hour that you generate out of a solar module saves more than 1.3 kilogram of carbon-2 emission in South Africa. Meanwhile, maybe 1.2 and not 1.3, because obviously the proportion of renewables is growing also in South Africa. Besides these ecological benefit, it's also every kilowatt hour generated there, obviously in the long run also helps to avoid climate change and everything. But if we look into this, the temperature we have to live with. So it's beneficial to take technologies that just perform a little bit better under our condition.
Yeah, it's great when technology comes together and it helps in everyday life, because there's a lot of ways that you can generate, and there is environmentally friendly ways as well to generate the same product at the end. And I believe that for these days to come, the more effective way would be then going a little bit green.
Yeah, definitely. And even you can generate electricity clean, and you can generate electricity not clean, or I don't want to say dirty, but also if you look into even product choices, and that's something which maybe consumers should be also aware. Not every product is necessarily manufactured under the same conditions, and over the years it's got a little bit out of the focus. But I believe if you deploy a renewable product, it should be also manufactured in an environment where social standards, environmental standards are obviously adhered to, where you don't, how should I say, you don't generate a clean energy product by literally polluting. So I believe it's important to look into what manufacturers are doing themselves to protect the environment, how much renewable content is really in their product, also when in their own manufacturing processes. And we try as good as we can to monitor this with the brands that we offer into the market, because I believe it must be quality, it must longevity, but also social and ecological standards must play a role.
Definitely, and you definitely you in the market, and you are doing it for so long with so a lot of wisdom that you guys gained, and practical experience as well, because there's times that you can have this idea, but there's that practicality that hinders your effectiveness in what you are doing. And this is exactly what you guys have done. You've got everything, you've got the whole spectrum of knowing exactly from the word go that this is going to work, this is why it's going to work, and the effectiveness and performance from the product makes it just so exceptional.
Thank you. Yeah, we try our best. We must find obviously the experience that we have, the knowledge that we have over the market, manufacturers, different technologies. Also looking back more than 20 years myself now in the industry, I have a very in-depth overview about different, not only technologies, but also different manufacturing countries, processes, and also in the long run, I wouldn't say we try to foresee, but what will be the technology of the future, but we try to be always state of the art and maybe a little bit ahead. So we are now looking into products, technologies on the module side, which is heterojunction, or when we look into storage capacity, we are also looking into what might be the best chemistry of a battery, the efficiency and longevity, but also in terms of later on, if you have to recycle it, so that it can be fully recycled, and also we make sure that the resources are used again and reused again.
Let's quickly wrap it up and give us a little bit of wisdom from your side, being in this industry for so long.
personally believe that we took a few very important steps over the last years, and also from our government side here. If you also look into the idea of future investment, for example, the president appointed Daniel Minelli there for the task team for the investment, which is a very good choice. It's an excellent person, and I believe he will be able to literally steer the process in the next years very successfully. Having these opportunities ahead of us, it's, I believe, now the time for our economy and our country to decide on if we want to use the fossil energy longer, to what extent, or if we integrate now solar faster, and I believe the decision is made, wind faster, renewables in general faster. We can see what we do with the resources that we have. Maybe we might use them one day in a completely different way, but not necessarily to power up our coal-fired power stations. And that will create, first of all, a cleaner environment for us, but also a lot of business opportunity. So the job generation that we see, that I saw in the years and in different markets that I was active, the job generation is massive. And it's not only production. So when the focus is always of what can we produce in South Africa, so maybe we can produce the one or the other product, and maybe even maybe some products along the entire value chain. But the deployment of renewables is also a job motor that should not be underestimated. So when I see, for example, where in Europe the majority of the jobs were created, not necessarily in manufacturing products, yes, also some, but obviously in the integration, consulting, installation, maintenance, that entire process created in the early years of the millennium in Europe over 300,000 jobs. At this stage in a fairly small industry. Now, if we look into the job effects, they are much higher now, seeing that the technologies are much more established. So I believe we are on the right way. The only thing that we have to do is reduce red tape wherever we can. Obviously, make it easier for the investors, companies, private individuals that want to do renewables to literally integrate their renewable generation into the bigger concept of a national power supply. It would be what I would wish for, and I believe we are at a good starting point now.
As long as we are busy getting somewhere and busy moving, there's always the capacity to go forward then. So thank you so much for chatting with us on Project CB News, and may you just have a safe traveling overseas.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the weekend ahead.
Thank you.
All the best.
Same for you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. This brings us to the end of our show. Go to our website to uncover more stories at projectcb.online.